Hello, Gary Gettle, psychologist, psychotherapist, here on my terrace at Lausanne. It's 8:30 at night CEST. It's Thursday, the 19th of June, and I'm very happy to be here and to be able to share this little reflection with you. I'm talking about not looking a gift horse in the mouth, which is a phrase which actually means that if something offers you something nice, don't check it out too much because maybe it's not as good as you fancy, and better to have something like that than to criticize it. Well, I'm looking at this in another fashion. I'm looking at this in a fashion that maybe you should. Maybe you should very, very much look it in the mouth and check exactly what it is that you're getting, what it is that this offer came out of a discussion I had this morning with someone, and it was a discussion about how people end up getting conned, getting tricked, getting conned, and what is it about them that allows that to happen. And while we were talking, it occurred to me that I was exactly in that situation. And I thought, well, this is something that's very, very important. We need to look at, we need to reflect on how come that we get ourselves sometimes into these bad situations. And I don't consider myself to be totally stupid. If I had a patient, and I've had some patients that come to me with all sorts of different stories, and very, very quickly I've questioned them about it. I've helped them see the reality, what they were doing, why they were doing, and what it could mean. And yet I've ended up almost in exactly, if not much, much worse situation than that. And so I'm going to explain to you what I'm talking about. Um, so one of my main projects for the next coming years is to travel around the world. It will be something nice. I've been in Switzerland for many years now. I go to England from time to time. I've been to Italy, to France, but it's just on holiday and things like that. What I would like, my dream, is over the next years, while I still feel well enough and capable enough, is to be invited to different parts of the world to give workshops and conferences and the like, things like that. So that's the dream that I've had for about a year now, 2 years. And I talk to people about it, say, yes, I'd like to do this. Anyway, so what happened is that last September, I was in England, in a small place in England, the northwest, called Stockport. A small, miserable town. Sorry if you're from there, but that's just my vision of it. It's a working class town. And there's a beautiful, wonderful lady that does a new age fairs. And I go on a regular basis each year, and I go to this fair and I meet people. I talk about what I do, maybe sell a few of my books and do a conference or whatever. And also because my mother lives in the northwest of England, I go and see her, stay with her. And so it's sort of two birds with one stone. So it's a good deal. So I'm there. I gave a conference. I came back, and there's this American woman that sort of strolls up, and she asks me what I'm doing, and she looks at my stand with my books and my readings and all sorts of different things. And we got talking, and I said, yeah, I'm a psychologist, and I do groups, I do workshops, and I'm looking to expand, and that's why I'm in England, to see if there's anything else I can do that. She says, well, I've got a project. I think it was Nicaragua. It's one of these sort of like small South American countries. I've got a project, and we're going to do this 1 week sort of retreat workshop. And would you be interested in coming for a week and helping organize that? And I said, sure, why not? Talking. And this American woman full of ideas and very quick doing that. So I said, yeah, sure. I gave her my card with my address and phone number on, and sort of came home to Switzerland. And I thought, it's a nice dream. It's a nice dream. I don't think anything will happen with it, but it's a nice dream anyway. Anyway, a month or so later, I get a phone call from this woman. Hey, I'm in Switzerland. I'm with my husband's mother, with my mother-in-law, and not very far away. And can we meet and discuss this project? And I thought, wow, this could be real, this project, and really start to dream into all these things that we could do. And so we meet. I didn't somehow want to bring her to my office, so we met in Starbucks. We had a coffee. And she said she's going to rent these two buildings. One is by the sea, the other one is a bit more inland, and there'll be horse riding. I said, well, what about doing horse therapy? She says, do you know anybody who can do horse therapy? I said, yes, I can. I've done horse therapy. I've done groups with horses, and we could do hypnosis, but I need to be paid well. And she said, no, don't worry, being paid well. We're going to charge quite a lot of money, so it's going to be quite a classy retreat for quite rich people. So we only 20 or 30 people, but we can ask them for a lot of money because it's going to be this very classy sort of week. And don't worry about that. We'll pay you your normal wages. And, well, that sounds good. And I thought, well, she pays me normal wages, and she pays for my flight, and she pays for my accommodation. It's going to be okay. And then I started to dream about all these things I was going to do, and all the workshops, and all the readings, and all these things, and I started to get quite excited. And also, I started to decide that I was going to lose some weight because I was going to be running these workshops and things. I wanted to be thinner and healthier. So I started, this is where the idea of the 70-day challenge came from. I gave myself 70 days between the beginning of January and the middle of March to try and be healthier and look better. So that's where the concept came from, actually, from that. So something good came out of it. Anyway, so, and I spoke to a few people about it. I said, well, I'm not 100% sure, but this is the idea. So it's the dream plan. One person I didn't talk to was my wife, because my wife is very structured and very clear and very much sort of like, I didn't want her to sort of criticize the project. But that is the first sign. The first sign there was something drastically wrong was the fact that I didn't want to tell her. I didn't want her to look at the project and tell me what she thought. Now, that should have been a sign that there was something already fishy about that. But I didn't know that. I just thought to myself, oh, and then she'll criticize it and she'll take away all the pleasure of it. And by the time I go there, it's going to not seem as good because she'll say something negative. Now, my wife is very, very intelligent, very, very clear. But I didn't tell her. I didn't tell her for a few weeks. And I was driving to Montreux because she needs to go to Montreux for something. And I'm the family driver. And she said, oh, I'm going to do this, that, the other. And I said, well, don't plan for me in March because in March I might not be here. She said, why not? And so I had to tell her this project. And then she said, well, who is this person? I said, that's her name. She says, where's the internet? Where's the net site? I said, well, it's not ready yet. So what do you mean it's not ready yet? So I talked about it with her, and she said, they're finishing it off. She says, but Gary, we're in February. We're in February. How can we be in February and she's got this big workshop plan and there's no net site? Does it make any sense to you? And I stopped, and she popped the bubble. I woke up and I sort of saw the reality. I saw it. And I thought, shit, what am I getting myself into? I said, but it's got to be something reasonable. She says, but do you know why she's inviting? Do you know what she's after? I said, well, workshops. So maybe she wants to kidnap you. I said, why would they want to kidnap me? I've got nothing. She doesn't know that. You come from Switzerland, you're a psychologist, you're a psychotherapist, you live here. Maybe she thinks you're rich. Maybe you think you've got a lot of money. And she thinks if she kidnaps you, she can ransom you for a lot of money. And if you don't give her the money, then they can beat you up, they can hurt you, do all sorts of things. I thought, she's right. And that's the problem. The problem was that I entered into my dream. This woman, she hooked me by my dream. It wasn't ego, it wasn't to get rich. It was because my dream is to start that as a project, is to do that. And she offered it to me. And that's so dangerous. It's so dangerous when someone hooks into your dream. And you don't think, you don't see, everything sort of like you don't want to see anything. It's a dysfunctional denial. You deny reality because you don't want to see reality. You don't want reality because reality is not what you're after. It's not your dream. And this is how these things are created. When you get this middle-aged woman that is in love with this handsome American guy that she's seen a photo of on the internet, and he tells her he's an ex-soldier and he's living in California and all these other things, and he's got these grandchildren, and he starts to talk about all these other things, and he's looking for a new relationship. He's looking for someone that's simple, someone that's not American, because he's sick of all the Americans and all the rubbish there. He wants a simple woman, a straight woman, a woman that's not going to give him a hard time. He feels that this is his soulmate, and he starts to get involved with her. And we know there's a little Nigerian guy somewhere on a computer in a corner, spouting out all these things. And somewhere more than likely, so does she. And that's where it's very weird. I saw something, I think it was from Canada, from Australia, about this Australian woman had already given a fortune to this guy. And her family had come in and said, look, this guy is, I think that the people from the television had actually found the guy. They'd actually proven that he was a con artist. And she did not want to believe. And this denial of reality, this wanting to stay in your dream, is so powerful, it's so strong, and it's so human. Because if it's something you want, if it's something emotionally you need, and someone's offering you that, you don't want to believe that it's not going to happen. You want it with all your heart and all your soul for it to be true. And you don't want to see, you don't want to hear, you don't want to think about anything other than that. Why do you believe, why do the people keep sending these stupid emails that says, you've won the lottery, the European lottery, or this African lottery, and you've won a fortune, or that this guy is a bank manager and somebody has died and left a fortune, and there's no heirs, and he has the same surname as you. Never mentions your surname, of course, never mentions the name of the person, but he has a name, surname as you. And if you just help him, you get 30, 40%. They're clever enough to know that they should offer you not too much of this fortune because it makes them seem greedy. And for them to seem greedy, they'll keep 70% for themselves. You help them, you get 30%. So that sort of fits into a logic that, yes, this person is trying to con me out of a lot of this money, but I'm still going to get a lot of money anyway. It's fallen from heaven. I need money, and this is exactly what I need, and this is great. Or you get this middle-aged woman, supposedly a European woman that's been married to somebody that's worked in Africa for years, and he died, maybe in an accident, maybe just out of old age, and now she's got this incurable disease, but who knows much about it. And while she's going to die, she wants to give all the money to charity, and she's chosen you. Just like that, out of the blue, she's chosen you to be the executor of this money and give it to charities. She can't give it direct to the charity. She can't give it to a lawyer. She gives it to you, nobody. But we want to believe it. And because we want to believe it, some people, they get on the hook. Some people, their need, their emotional desire is so strong that they go that way. And sometimes, even if you're half aware that it's not real, you might want to do it. I had a patient once, and he was telling me that he has a new girlfriend. Well, that's nice. Surprised. He's not really the sort of person I would expect to go out and get drunk or meet someone. I don't know. I said, well, how did you meet her? He says, on the internet. There's this internet dating thing. And I thought, that's a bit iffy. You see, for other people, I've got the distance. Just for myself, it's in my own dream. That's different. So I said, that's a bit iffy, isn't it? I mean, how do you know? I said, well, I've joined this net site, and we started to interact. I said, but what do you know about her? He says, well, what she tells me. She tells me this, she tells me that. I said, but how do you know it's real? He says, I don't. And I said, well, are you paying her any money? He says, yeah, I pay every month to be on this site. And so I say, you're paying every month and someone is interacting with you? He says, yes. So how do you know it's not someone that just paid for that? And he looked at me and he said, Mr. Ghetto, I don't care. I don't care how real it is or not. It helps me dream. It helps me think. It gives me someone to talk to, someone to share with, and it's enough. And it's fascinating that someone can fit into a dream enough that even if they're half awake, they stay enough in the dream for it to have some value for them. That's one thing. Now, another situation which is totally different. I mean, like totally different, because in all these situations, someone else has created the dream for us. Someone else has sold us the dream. Someone else is going to benefit from us latching onto that dream. However, the same mechanism can work by yourself. Now, I had a patient once. He came to me and he was in a very bad state. He's an American and he's working for an American company here in Switzerland. And I said, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" He says, "Mr. Ghetto, I think I'm going to get fired." I said, "Oh, what have you done?" He says, "I'm going to be fired for abandoning my post." I say, "Well, did you abandon your post?" He says, "I'm going to." Well, that's weird. How can you be about to be sacked because you're about to abandon your post and you've not done it yet? I thought, can you explain to me what's going on? He said, yes, as when I first started last year, I had a meeting with my manager and the human resources, and they were explaining to me the contract, the Swiss contract, which is so much nicer than the American contract. And one of the things is this 5 weeks holiday. And I looked at that and said, are you sure it's 5 weeks? And that can take 5 weeks? Because in America, sometimes you have 3-4 weeks holiday, but if you take more than two, you're sort of very badly looked at. And people will phone you up in the middle of your holidays and all sorts of things because they don't like you being away from the office so long. They said, no, it's 5 weeks off holiday and you'll not be hassled and you can do what you want. And we won't interfere with your 5 weeks of holiday. And so he said, well, look, wondering if I wanted to go back to America for 4 weeks. They said, well, we can discuss it. It's possible. It's feasible. And so that was it. This year, he decided he would go for 4 weeks holiday in America. He didn't take his holidays at Christmas or Easter. He took a day or two here, and he accumulated his 4 weeks. That was there. No worries. Bought his tickets. He informed his clients that he's going to be away for 4 weeks. If it was an emergency, they could contact him and talk to them by Zoom. But in general, he's not going to be available. He's going to be in America. He's going to be on holiday. Unless it's a huge crisis, please don't find him. Please don't hassle him. So he's got clients that are used to working with American companies. I didn't find this to be particularly normal. What did they do? They phoned up his boss. They phoned him his boss, and he says, how is this Bob? I'll make it up the name, Bob. How come Bob is taking 4 weeks holiday in one go, and we've only just been informed now about it? And the manager says, oh, don't worry about it. We'll sort it out. And he put the phone down, and he calls up Bob, and he says, you get in my office now. And he sort of went to his office, and the guy said, what's this story about 4 weeks holiday? He says, yes, I'm going to go back to the States for 4 weeks. I've booked the tickets, and it's all set. I've talked to the clients, and it's all arranged. And the boss said, that's not how things are done here. You don't take more than 2 weeks holiday without clearing it with the human resources and with me. 3 weeks, we can let go. 4 weeks, you do not do. That is an abandonment of your post. You've abandoned your post. That is a faute grave. It's an important fault, and you can be sacked for abandoning your post. You just don't do that. They said, well, we discussed it when I was being employed, and I asked if it was okay to go to America and if I could do 4 weeks, and you said it was okay. They said, no, I didn't say it was okay. I said it was feasible. And when something is feasible, it needs to be discussed. And for me to find out, when you're leaving, he says, I'm leaving in 2 weeks. He says to me to find out 2 weeks before you leave that you're going to abandon your clients for 4 weeks is unacceptable. And I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to discuss it with the management, but you're on notice. And that was it. The guy, he phoned me up. in emergency, really upset, or really didn't know what to do, was shaking. And I said, but wait a moment. I said, well, this guy, when you asked, said it was feasible. And yet you organized 4 weeks holiday. Who did you tell in your office? He said, well, nobody. I said, well, how many people in your office take long holidays and don't tell anybody? He says, I don't know. I don't know everybody in the office. I don't know who does what. I say, okay, if somebody's going abroad, someone's going to go on a trip, do they usually say they're going to go to France, to Germany, to England, um, anywhere when they're going somewhere? Or that most to America, don't they usually mention it? He says, yeah, they usually mention it. He says, but you didn't. He says, no, I didn't. I didn't think to. I said, do you realize how odd that is? And he looked at me, Mr. Guy said, are you criticizing me? I said, I'm here to help you see the reality of what has happened and what you have done and how it is inappropriate and how your boss has right to be angry at you. Sometimes I'm quite tough with my patients, I admit it. I said, he is angry with you because you've done something inadequate. You've done something wrong. You are at fault. He says, Mr. Gell, I'm not going to stay here and be criticized. I said, you'll sit down and you will listen and you will use your normal thinking brain. You have chosen not to question that for weeks. You have got the dream of going home and you didn't want to take the risk. Better excuse yourself afterwards than take the possibility someone will say, no, you can't do something. He said, well, I've heard of that, Mr. Gettle. I said, of course you've heard of that, because that is what you've done. You have unconsciously, I'm not saying it's conscious, I don't say it's intentional, but it's a fact. You have factually not told anybody. You kept this a secret from everybody. No, I've told my clients, except your clients. And when did you tell your clients? Well, I started telling them last week. So you started telling your clients 3 weeks before you're going on a 4-week holiday, and you didn't tell anybody at work. He says, no. I says, is that normal? And he looked at me and he went, no. So that's all that you need to be able to be aware of, is that you got yourself locked in to a dream that you didn't want to take the risk that it could not come true. So you've protected this by not telling anybody. But by not telling anybody, you might lose your job. And he said, what can I do, Mr. Guerrero? I said, I suggest you go back to your manager and you take a very, very, very one-down position and say, I really screwed up. I chose to hear that. I didn't choose to question it. I really wanted to go back home. I really needed to go back home. It was really important. And what I did was wrong. And I will accept a blame. I'll accept a warning letter. I will never, ever do this again. I see what was wrong. And I just somehow didn't allow myself to see that it was wrong. And yes, I'm 100% at fault. And he went back. And because he was transparent, because he was really sorry, because he did admit what happened, and he said that my psychologist explained that I was in denial, dysfunctional denial, and I didn't want to see it. And he said that his manager sort of shook his head. And that was this lunatic you've got as a therapist. But he accepted the apology. He wrote him a warning letter. He says, a warning letter, I'm going to dock you 2 weeks' pay as a sort of punishment, just like that, which was actually legal. But what he did was a photograph that was illegal. So to take 2 weeks' wages off him was a sort of like a balancing act, so that the manager felt that he paid a penalty. And he passed. He went on holiday and he came back, and all was okay at the end of it. But you can see that when something fits into a dream of yours, no matter what the dream is, if something hooks into your dream, then you close your mind. This Dysfunctional denial stops the normal questioning of what you're doing, what you're thinking, what you expect. It just switches it off, because if you question it, then it will just evaporate. You will wake up from the dream. It will disappear. I'll give you a last example of that, which is a very weird example. Now that I'm talking about, sometimes when I talk about things, I remember things, is that at one point, long, long, long time ago, about 40 years ago, I had a passing relationship with a very young lady. It was a bit of a slut. And I was running a video shop at the time. And I sort of got fascinated by her. I wouldn't say I was in love with her, but we had sex. That was okay. And I sort of like made her my assistant, and she was wandering around doing stuff. And I thought I've had this feeling that we're in a relationship. And then somebody said, "Why do you allow her to scream at you like that?" So what are you talking about? Says, listen, she was in another room and she was shouting something at me, but I was much older than her already, and she was being totally disrespectful. And I thought, that's not the right way to speak to someone. And she came out, and I'd seen she was this very small, fairy-like being. I won't tell you her name because I don't want to embarrass her, even 40 years later. And I felt it. This is sort of elfin-like, yeah? And in front of my eyes, she changed. It was like a fantasy film. It was really like one of these fantasy films where you have the monster that was beautiful and then it turns back. She turned into this gnome-like creature. It was just not attractive. And I woke up from the dream. And it happened in 15 seconds. It was so quick, but it was really like a special effect from a science fiction, from a fantasy film. She just changed. I watched her change, and she became this weird, twisted, unattractive thing. And I didn't fancy her at all after that. It was totally finished. It was finished. It was finished because I woke up from the dream. And yes, the dream was to be involved with this beautiful, young, attractive girl that everybody else wanted to be in relationship with, and it didn't stay for very long. So there's the story of tonight. So if someone latches onto your dream, or you see someone who has a dream that someone else latches onto, and they start to act in an inappropriate way, be gentle with them. They're not being stupid. They're not being pig-headed. They are wanting to stay in their dream. And if you can gently puncture their dream and get them to wake up and to see what is actually happening and say, this is your dream, but this dream is not possible. It's not going to happen. Just wake up and smell the roses. It's there. Then, or if you are taken by some sort of dream that you really want something, or you really want to be with someone, and it starts to happen, and these things offer to you, take a step back. Find people of confidence, people that you know, people that have good advice, and ask them their opinion and listen to them, because this is a moment that our own good sense is being switched off by ourselves. And it's a very, very dangerous moment. We could end up in huge, huge problems because of that. Okay, so that's my sermon for this evening. Thank you for your attention. It's a very important subject. Just be aware of it for yourself and for close people. If you find this interesting, please like, subscribe, share with your friends, send me a message if you want. I'm very open to discussing things and helping people. If you know someone that could do with a session with me, I'm willing to do sessions on the internet for people. That's obviously free. And tomorrow is Friday, so I'm not. There's no internet, there's no YouTube on Friday. And Saturday, I'm helping run a birthday party, well, the adults for the birthday party. So I won't be able to go live on YouTube. I'll try and record something. I'll see if it's possible. If not, then I'll be doing the guided meditation on the Sunday evening. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. And I'll see you next time.